How's it going, everybody? Josh KI6NAZ. Today we're going to talk about a general coverage receiver. You know I'm a big fan of portable handheld shortwave radios, things that can do medium wave, long wave if possible, shortwave, both the broadcast FM AM frequency bands and, of course, all the ham radio goodness that there lies in between. Today we're going to be talking about the CountyComm GP-5 single sideband. That's the big part about this thing, it's single sideband. And why this may or may not be the radio you should add to your arsenal if you're considered getting a general coverage receiver for personal preparedness. Let's get started. The CountyComm GP-5, made by CountyComm, is a company that I've supported for a very long time. I bought gear off of them for a long time, and I've been looking at one of these for about as long as I've been buying stuff off of them. It's been on the market for a while. In fact, it shares a lot of commonalities with the Texun PL365. I could be mistaken, but I think that these are the same radios, just rebadged and reskinned for CountyComm, which does government contracts. I can't comment on what CountyComm actually does with these radios or who they sell them to, but they do offer them for sale, and they go about $85 for this model. The GP-5, being a general coverage radio, goes long wave 150 kilohertz through 522 kilohertz, short wave 1.7 megahertz through 29.9 megahertz, medium wave, which is AM, which is 522 to 1620 megahertz, and the FM broadcast bands, which is 87 through 108, or 76 through 108, which is worldwide FM. So if you have an interest in receiving different frequencies on the lower side of the house, it doesn't cover much of the VHF, UHF space, this is a solid radio to have in your kit. The form factor is actually probably its most intriguing part of it. It comes with a clip. It is very thin. It fits in a pocket really well. It has an earphone jack on the top, so you can listen to this when it's in your pocket, particularly if you're on AM, because you don't need the ferrite to listen to AM. But when you put this ferrite on top in this AM external antenna, it drastically improves the receive capability of this radio. Now, no one should be surprised. It's been mentioned so many times on my channel, I carry a general coverage receiver. The radio that I carry most of the time is a C-Crane Skywave single sideband. And for me, one of the most important parts of a general coverage receiver is that it must have single sideband. The Texun, at least previous models of the Texun, similar form factor, was a shortwave radio, but it didn't cover single sideband, so it really never made my list. When the GP-5 came out, they changed it and they added a single sideband button with the ability to switch between upper and lower sideband. All good things. So that opens it up to listen to lower and upper sideband when you're listening to the ham radio shortwave frequencies, the HF frequencies, if you will. The controls on the radio, being that it's this slim form factor, are very small little buttons. There are tuning wheels on the side, and there is a volume control on the side. A compelling factor is if you put rechargeable batteries in this, which it runs off of 3 AA's, you can charge it from the mini USB port that's on the side. Again, all good things. And so on paper, it has everything you're looking for, and a price tag at about $80 to $90. That ticks a lot of boxes, but I have things I don't like about this. So this is going to be my personal opinion on this radio. You can decide for yourself if these are things that will be issues for you, and then you can decide whether you want to purchase this or not. To do this in standard ham radio crash course format, I'm going to talk about what I like, what I don't like, and then would I buy it. Let's get started with that. So what I like about this is that it's actually a general coverage receiver. It has low wave, medium wave, the shortwave bands for HF, FM, and AM broadcast stations. So it's a fairly full-featured receiver from the receiving of frequencies point of view. It can be charged off of USB, which is nice. The color is fantastic. The form factor, again, I'll just repeat it, is probably my favorite part about this. It's thin, it's narrow, it's got a clip. I mean, these are all kind of dumb things, right? But it actually stands for a lot. The screen is of a nice size that you can actually read it. It has a nice backlit screen that you can see in the dark. All of it like fit and feels really good in the hand. I don't know, something about the color scheme they went with. The gray, you can get it flat black now. The green on the tip here of the antenna. The tuning wheel is green, orange and green. I don't know, it's like a zombie vibe thing going on with the gray flat material on it. I really like the fit and finish of it. All of that, the form of the radio is good. The functionality though, that's what we got to talk about. So the problem, and the thing I don't like about this radio, is its control scheme. There's no numbers. There's no way to key in a frequency. You're left tuning constantly with this wheel, and the wheel has fine tuning and fast tuning. However, getting it to switch between fine tuning and fast tuning can be a little fiddly. Like there's a way to do it via actually scrolling quickly and on the screen here on its controls, but it's not intuitive. And it's actually not that fast either, so you're still left kind of spending a lot of time tuning around, and it feels laborious, something that you don't really want to do. It wants you to use the ETM button, which is its easy tuning mode. And what that does when you hold it down for a given band that you're on is it will scan around and it will assign frequencies that it hears signals on to a temporary memory channel. It has a page for just easy tuning mode. And that allows you to then scroll back over the tuning wheel when you actually pick up frequencies. You can go back and listen to them. That's great if you're listening to stations like broadcast stations that are assigned a frequency and they're not really moving around. When it comes to the single sideband aspect of this radio, it's not that great because, again, you're stuck with this tuning ability. Now, I know that you can get lucky and you can ETM and scan and find amateurs talking on the shortwave spaces, but generally you don't. You use the scanning feature on, like I said, the broadcast bands, and you jump around via tuning, via the VFO, to find frequencies that you want to listen to on the shortwave spaces, particularly the amateurs. Now, of course, shortwave radio broadcast side is going to, again, have frequencies that are not going to move. They're going to stay there, and they're going to be putting out a carrier, and this radio will pick that up. So it's fine if you want to listen to broadcast frequencies. On the ham band stuff, though, not that great. And then lastly, while the form factor is fantastic, it sits on tables awkwardly. It's going to fall over. The footprint on this thing is tiny. And even though the weight is on the bottom here where the batteries are, this has a tendency to fall over if you even look at it the wrong way. It's robust enough that I'm not really worried about it, but when I'm used to using shortwave general coverage receivers that are like a brick that has a kickstand and kind of sits tilted on a desktop, I just prefer that form factor more. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put this on a straight up beat and bash against my C-Crane Skywave, which is a much more expensive radio, basically twice the price. But I'm going to provide two other radios, and we're going to do a comparison. I'm going to compare it against my Texan PL660, which is a top-in-class general coverage shortwave receiver, which is bigger, much bigger. And I'm going to also compare it against a Texan PL380, which is a shortwave broadcast receiver. It doesn't have the single sideband. So because this fits in kind of a sweet spot, a niche, if you will, that has a very good price, $80 to $90 is a good price for a shortwave receiver. The competition at the shortwave level is always much more expensive. So you're going to have to make a decision on how you would spend your money on what kind of receiver you should buy. But let's take a look at the comparison, and I'll talk to you again to wrap this all up. In an attempt to do the comparison in the most fair way possible, I've taken a whole wide range of shortwave radios, and I'm going to use them and record their audio on the Zoom H6 handy recorder to try and give you the best idea of the audio quality that you can expect from them. These are all single speaker radios, the GP-5 kind of being centered right in the middle because it's the middle of the road cost-wise with some outliers. This one's pretty cheap, this one's pretty expensive, this one's a little bit more expensive than this one, and this one's garbage pretty much. But anyway, let's take a look at what they sound like. First on the chopping block, the GP-5. I'm going to use my end-fed antenna, and I have a mono plug here which plugs into this adapter which goes onto the aerial via a clip. Now, if this had a native antenna input, I absolutely would be testing it with that, but let's start out with 10 megahertz. To help you appreciate what's actually on this frequency, this is the Texan PL660. Let me turn this on.
At the tone, 3 hours, 48 minutes, coordinated universal time.
This is the level of quality that you'll get out of native antenna jack mono plugged into the PL660. But that wouldn't be completely fair because this is the only radio that has an antenna jack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an alligator clip on the tip here, just the tip, and I'm going to connect that lead to the aerial. We're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to turn it on. It's actually too loud now. All right, let's take a listen to the GP-5. Not bad, all in all. Not nearly as good as the PL660, but you know, what do you expect? I do want to point out too, there's a really nice dB readout. All of the small form Texans have these. The small form Texans have a little dB readout, which is pretty nice. So let's put the rest of the radios to their paces. Probably the cheapest radio that's acceptable in this lineup is this PL380. Let's hear what it sounds like on 10 meters, or 10 megahertz. Not great. Before we go to the Sea Crane Skywave, I'm going to put the the TIV Dio on it just to show you the comparison here. This is the $30 radio. So it's just completely blown out. The reason is that the AM stations are overloading. Whatever circuitry they have in here, it's favoring the AM antenna instead of completely isolating it, and so you're getting all this AM intermod. It's a good AM radio too, believe it or not. It sounds really good. It has this crazy bass boost thing on the back, the mega bass. I know that's mega bass, but still, pretty funny. Not a good shortwave radio. Last on the shortwave radio space here, the Sea Crane Skywave single sideband. Getting a little overloaded. So I believe that that's just because it's getting overloaded from this antenna, but still not really a good performer. This actually performed a little bit better, surprisingly. Without getting myself into trouble, we're going to do the same thing on AM.
And as you travel through the Ontario,
I'm going to do a scan. You can see it's just pulling in the frequencies.
Proud to announce no contact full service junk removal. Protecting not only the
until after they've skipped jail. In one example,
Newsom has given the go-ahead for professional. The pitch grounded on the left side.
Baseball always sounds good on the radio. I don't know why.
He was instead insinuating that justification for all these unmaskings.
Same thing. Let's do it with the PL660 and see what we get on AM using the clip.
감정에 오래 머물 수 없다.
First up, we have Bob from Orange County.
不仅可以允许跨区。Trouble on the 605 northbound.
Go to the bottom of the ninth. We're tied at 3.
That's that same baseball station.
Angels Radio.
At least 7 state.
Okay, I think you get the idea. The PL660 is going to be a lot better at DXing, particularly for AM stations. It is a fantastic shortwave receiver, though. Let's do the same thing with the Skywave. We might also be overloading this again, but we're going to try anyway. See if we can get some good signals out of it. So the GP-5 does have this ETM button, again, that I talked about. And it does make getting through the bands pretty easy, but that's all you have for input, which kind of makes it tough. All right, same thing. We're going to do a scan. Pretty slow at scanning. I want to point out hopefully the obvious too. This uses a page system, and the pages are going to count through 9, which is 1 for every memory slot, and then go to the next page. We're on page 2, so we have about 20 something, oh, page 3, 30 something channels, whereas the ETM, it just goes on a scroll wheel and you can just scroll through the memories. It's a bit different style. ETM, easy tune mode, versus ATS, which is automatic tone search or something like that. The Texans have the ETM function. This one does as well. The PL660 does not. It has traditional scanning with pages. This is an older radio than these two newer ones. Slightly newer anyway. So we're on page 5 now. Usually I find a whole lot of signals on AM with this radio, but let's see what we get. Takes quite a long time though. That's the only downside of this.
Citizen of California who left California. Then they're not going to let anyone have their 6 o'clock, and that is causing some slow traffic now.
I do have this set for music right now. Let me change it to voice.
Between Cesar Chavez and the
gives it a bit deeper tone. So I'm going to hit page. I'm going to go to page 2.
The sacrifice.
will after the crucible.
It's time for Straight Talk brought to you by...
A variety of
War II under communists.
Again, watch this switch. It's on music now. It flattens, makes it more voice. So not a bad radio, this being the most expensive one out of the bunch. Why would you go with this one over the GP-5? Well, it performs better generally on a wide space. This does AM, FM, weather, air, shortwave, single sideband, and generally does okay in all of them. This one does similar, but not as well as this does on averages if you're comparing them. So let's take a look at the size of these things, right? I mean, the GP-5, you can get 2 GP-5s into one pack that you would put a PL660. The size difference is appreciable. Obviously, I think you can expect that. This is going to be a lot bulkier in your pack. But what about against the 380, which is, again, about 2 of them almost, and also skinnier and taller, but more narrow. And then the same thing with the Skywave, although the Skywave is kind of more of a thick boy than it is wide, a little less than, you can get half a GP-5 on one of these, and it's taller. Again, my choice in carrying one of these radios is going to be this guy. This is okay, right? But again, there's no key buttons to work off of. There's no way to type in a frequency. Further, when you're kind of jumping around, you can scroll slowly or you can scroll fast, right? So let me go back to the... You got fast scroll, slow scroll. So that's a number of values. This does as well, but... See, now it's in fast. And this is how you would get through your frequencies. If you wanted to get into shortwave, you'd have to get down to the band you want. 40 meters, 30 meters, 11, 13 megahertz. And then, so we're at 15, and we'd have to scroll down if we wanted to get to the amateur radio bands, or go down to this guy and scroll up. Not great for that usability, versus if you're using the Skywave, kick it over to shortwave, and then you just tune in what you're looking for. And there it is. Change the tone to voice. So you're already on the frequency pretty quickly. Makes it a little bit easier. All right, so for instance, 14.246, there's a station. I'm back on the wire. Let's see if I can find another amateur station on the GP-5. Not bad. Let's go back to the Skywave.
Yeah, it's working real good there. It's working real good there for you. For sure. Good job there for sure. So anyway, I'm going to move on, Dennis, and tell your mother-in-law thanks, and she ought to get her license also there. It'll be fun for her to get on the radio, and y'all might be able to talk every now and then.
How about the PL660? Same thing on the wire. There it is, that's it. This has a BFO adjuster on it, which really helps pull the sound out. Good stuff. So would I buy this? Well, I did buy this one. I may end up giving it away, because even though it is the right form factor to carry around, I'm still going to carry around my C. Crane Skywave. It's just a better radio, particularly for single sideband. Now, for those of you that don't want to pay that amount of money to get a radio like that, what would I recommend? I would get the PL660. The PL660 is a better radio than all of the radios that I own that are general coverage receivers, including the Skywave. The downside is it's much bigger, but that size gives you a lot more, I don't know, control. The interface is a lot better. It's easy to put the radio where you want it to be listening to. And I also like the fact, I think the PL660, the reason why I like it so much, and I do always go back to it to listen on, is that it has an external antenna. This has an external antenna, but it's for AM. So if you want to increase your shortwave, you have to use a clip on the aerial, which is not always that great. It's fine, but PL660 just has so much going on for it, and it's really kind of an undervalued radio. It's about $100. You can find them for cheaper. I think the reason is people look at the PL660 and they see that the 840 is not that much more expensive, and they think that's going to be a better radio. For my money, for shortwave, single sideband shortwaves particularly, the PL660 is a superior radio. I know this video isn't about the PL660, it's about the GP-5. I still like this radio, but I feel like it's not the radio for me. It's not what I'm looking for as far as control. If you are a broadcast listener, you listen to shortwave broadcast stations, or you DX shortwave broadcast stations, or you listen to AM, you listen to FM a lot, this is a fantastic radio. It's nicely sized, easily rechargeable, fits in a bag. The AM ferrite on this thing is fantastic. Probably one of its best features is its receive capability on AM. But for what I do, for the type of radio I like to play, it doesn't hit all the check marks for me. I'd love to know what you think about the GP-5 in the comments below. If you have one, how do you generally use it? Do you use it on shortwave, particularly single sideband a lot? Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm Josh, KI6NAZ. If you haven't already, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. I do stream every Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I'd love if you've checked it out. All right, I'll talk to you later. See ya.